Hello all, a very good evening. Welcome to Sakshi TV's special immigration talk show with attorney Dr. Srinivas Kaveti. I am Preeti Mulbagal, your host for the show. Our today's guest, Dr. Kaveti, is a very well-known, multifaceted, accomplished international attorney who has studied in multiple countries, and now he has opened many offices. That includes the number is 24 offices across the globe, and he has so many accolades and awards to his cap. And now, to add to it, he has been covered in 450 newspapers across the globe. Dr. Kaveti, before I say anything more, I would like to welcome you to our show, and we would like to hear a bit about you on that part. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So kindly tell us, Dr. Kaveti, before we delve into the actual topic of our discussion today. So just to give us little highlights about the coverage across the globe as seen in Fox and everywhere.
Right. I mean, I must honestly tell you this thing goes to my colleague, Mr. Parza, is recommended my name to this, best of the best guys, writing about my background. So they selected, and he said I should be, should be recognized. So they recognized, and they said, it's like an International Legal Counsel Leadership Award. And they have published in more than 450 newspapers all over the world, in Malaysia, in America, Fox News, NBC, everywhere. And it's so hard to even download all of them. It's not easy. And I was so excited. A couple of months ago, I was given an award in Oxford, Nelson Mandela. Now it's adding more and more and more for the hard work which we have, I guess, done. Coming to our practice, it's we are expanding more to northern part of India now, and to Chandigarh and Rajasthan and northern part of India. And we are trying to open up all over India, pan India, just to be available for people across the country, those who cannot afford to come to America and England and Canada and Australia to hire a lawyer in this side of the world, because a consultation itself will cost them 50,000 rupees in India. So if you are there and if you're available to our countrymen, and that will be great in terms of immigration law, in terms of family law, in terms of corporate law. I mean, lately we've been getting a lot of calls. Those who are students and H-1B guys, those who have filed asylum applications, but they're getting picked up. So, we are assisting, our firm is assisting some individuals like that. And there's so much of, misnomer. The questions is, can an F1 guy can apply for an asylum? Can an H-1B guy can apply an asylum? What is the criteria for an asylum? What is the criteria for a refugee? And we're doing a lot
Before
of
we get
human
into the
rights.
criteria, Dr. Kaveti, we would delve more into that with the introduction part. And let me first congratulate you on the amazing achievements that you've had and you've made. So hearty congratulations from
Thank you.
us,
Thank you.
from Sakshi TV and our viewers.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
as you were mentioning on the, just as you were just mentioning, so our today's topic, which is usually very important and often misunderstood topic, can F1s and H1 visa holders seek political asylum in the United States? So we'll also explore the pros and cons, the consequences of taking this step. So you being the expert in the US immigration law, we would be very happy to seek more insights from you. So to start with, could you please explain what political asylum means under the US immigration law?
See, one need to understand, I mean, this is, of course, in educational purposes we are talking, not as an expert, because in US, if you want to be an expert, you have to get a license to be an expert. Just in information purposes, there's what is the meaning of a refugee and what is the meaning of asylum? Asylum is, anybody who comes into the country when they have a fear of persecution back home because of their race, because of this and their nationality, because they belong to certain social class, social and their opinion because of their opinion, sometimes even religion. For example, when you see recently in Bangladesh, a lot of Hindu temples and Hindu, Krishna consciousness priests have been attacked in Bangladesh. Similar thing in Pakistan and many countries, they target Hindus. I mean, if you see again, Palestine Muslims who are there in Israel and who are Jewish people in Palestine, things like that, because of the religion, there's a persecution. And sometimes if you belong to certain class of people, certain social group or even opinion, if you see, it goes back to India, I mean, a few years ago, because same-sex, were not allowed. There was an unnatural offense in India. If you see, that was non-bailable. But if you see now, because India also recognizes, same-sex associations or even marriages, they don't recognize, but people live together. Things like that. If you're coming from certain sexual orientation or things like that, they have been persecuted, they've been killed, and things like that. If you see that same thing in Middle East, if you see in Muslim countries, if you are talking about lesbian or gay or having same-sex relationship, they could even kill you, and you cannot practice that, even in some Muslim countries like Pakistan, another thing. So if you belong to certain class of people, or because of your opinion, or because of your sexual orientation, or even certain religious backgrounds, or sometimes even certain political organizations, if you see back in India, 20 years ago, if you're from Naxal movement, Naxal Bari, they declared you as an extremist and they were killing. The government was persecuting them. So things like that because of your opinion. So people who have such things, if you have a fear when you want to go back, that's asylum, that you can apply for an asylum. And the refugees are people who are outside the country. They go in the refugee camps under the human rights. They get refugee status and they can come into the country.
That is the difference between asylum and refugee you are just explaining.
Correct.
Okay, so you've given us the meaning of political asylum and also the kind of fears typically that qualifies people to expect or to apply for asylum. And you've also given us what the difference is between refugee and an asylum. So here, coming back to the F1 student status, so can international students on F1 visa apply for political asylum while they are still studying in the US?
Answer is yes, because the law says if you're in any status in the country, you can apply for an asylum. The question is, because you must understand, the students who come into US, it is a dual intent visa. Either you want to go back or you want to stay in the country. H1 is also a dual intent. You might want to stay or you might want to go back. But when it comes to asylum application, that means you want to be an immigrant in the country. If you want to be an immigrant in the country, that is intention to live in the country permanently. So that's a little conflicting. But as a student, when you come into the country, if you have any problems back home, yes, you can apply. And if you're on an H1B, yes, you can apply. There's no restriction for that. You have to be in some status. Sometimes when you come into the country also, sometimes crossing the border also, or when you're coming into the country lawfully or even unlawfully, you can file an application, asylum application. Yes, you can apply, but there is a time frame. You cannot apply after 2-3 years. You have to apply within 1 year, within 1 year from your entry into the country.
Okay, that makes sense. And does applying for asylum affect their student status or the service record immediately?
Well, once you file asylum, your service doesn't get terminated. However, you still have to maintain your student status. That means you have to go back to school. And if you're filing on an H1 also, you have to still maintain your employment full time with the employer who sponsored you. Merely filing an asylum doesn't mean that your H1 gets terminated or even student visa get terminated. You have to maintain your student visa or going to school. And if you're working for an H1B, you have to maintain the status. And merely filing doesn't terminate, doesn't get revoked. That's a different.
Got it. So, what are the political consequences for their academic program or future visa renewals?
Right. If you're filing an asylum application, it would have an impact on your country, because once you file an application, you're saying that you have a fear of persecution. The government might, prosecute you, or there could be persecution. There's two different between prosecution and persecution. If you're saying that the U.S. government will report to your home country saying that this guy has some issues with your security and everything, he cannot come, so he's applying for an asylum. It's like Sharanagati. That's what it is in
Okay.
Sanskrit. And
Okay.
they will report to them. And the second thing is, once you file, you cannot travel back to your country. And if you want, you can apply to go to other countries by filing a parole. But once you do that, it's called advanced parole. You can file it, but it is a discretion of the immigration whether they can grant you or not. That's the second thing. The third thing is, you still have to, there are certain criteria for filing an asylum in the country.
Okay. So here, what happens to their employment or work authorization once they file for asylum? Sorry, I was asking about the H1s because you already mentioned that the H1s can also apply for an asylum. So what happens to their employment and work authorization once they file for an asylum?
But see, H1 is a non-immigrant petition. You are working for your employer. You can continue to work for your employer. And on an asylum application, after 180 days, you can make a work authorization. Once you do a work authorization, you can also work for any employer. But the question is, if the asylum application gets denied, then they will put you on a removal because your H1B gets revoked if you're not working for your same employer who sponsored you. For example, if you're on F1, if you're not going to school, if you stop going to school, and if your service gets terminated, then if your asylum gets denied, they will put you on a removal, deportation. So it's a very risky thing. So you have to maintain your student status, and if you're on H1B, you have to maintain your H1B status. If the asylum application gets approved, then you get your approval, and after 1 year you can apply for a green card. Then you can work for anybody else. So two different routes.
Okay, so if the asylum is approved, are they allowed to continue working for the same employer during this asylum process?
Yeah, once your asylum application get approved, that means your pathway to get green card. You don't have to work for your employer. It is your discretion. If you want to work, you can still work, but there's no condition. There's no condition precedent. You can work for somebody else. It's up to you. You can even start your own business and do whatever you want. But that's a risk you take if you leave your H1B employer, or if you stop going to school on a student visa. Then if it gets denied, then you're straight on a removal, because your F1 is service is terminated, your H1 is revoked because you're not working. You violated your H1B status.
So does it take the same time period for a normal H1 person and for the H1 visa holder who has sought an asylum to get the green card? Same period, time
No, the
period?
H1 takes about 15-20 years, but depends upon what country you come from. But asylum, once you get asylum application approved, you can also bring your family, your wife and children. That is a great part. I mean, and you can also become a citizen in US within few years. But H1 route is very long, and asylum route is shorter. But there is a high onus on you to prove to the government, saying that you have all these fears because of your nationality, race, your opinion, and you belong to certain political class or a social group. All of that, the burden is on you to prove that you really have a fear of persecution.
Okay. So once that is all proven and the asylum is approved, then the asylum route is much faster for the green card. Is what we understood. So I was just
Yes,
reiterating.
you're right. Correct.
Okay. So what are the main advantages of applying for asylum while on a valid visa status for F1 or H1? So we spoke about the faster route for getting a green card for H1B. And what would that advantages be for the F1 also? Please let us know.
Well, see, there's no, it's not the question of that you have an advantage or disadvantage. but you have to have a credible fear. That
Mhm.
means you got to prove the US government that you have a fear to go back. Because there are two things in this asylum. One, if you're being subjected to some torture in the past, then you can bring it to the government and say, I was subjected to torture and fear and everything. The government is targeting me. Not that because of the economic factors that, oh, I'm a poor guy, I can't do it. Oh, I was in politics, because I was a politician or some property dispute I have, some brothers and sisters are trying to kill me. Not those things. Not because you have any cases or anything like that. You have to have a real credible fear, and that's one thing. And two, once you prove, you can also, as I said, bring your family, wife and children. They can come and join you once you're this thing. It's called follow to join. They can come and join you. They will also be given green card. That's one thing. And three, if you didn't have any fear, let's say when you came into the country as a student or an H-1B, you didn't have any, damage or harm caused to you in the past. But after coming here, things have changed in your country, change in circumstances in your country. Let's say you are in some political party. Now that party is not in a power because you belong to that political party. The present political party is attacking your family and killing you guys. There's a fear. Things like that, change in circumstances in the country. And there's a future fear as well. If you prove that you have a future fear, they're attacking and everything. But evidence is you have to show that you have to show police reports, you have to show court records, you have to show medical records, you have to show any emails, any threats, photographs, or medical records. All those things you have to bring it to the U.S. government and prove yourself that yeah, you have a real fear. So
Mhm.
these things cannot be fabricated. You have to show everything legitimate. You can also show that country because Department of State also publishes certain country reports, and there are so many resources online. You can
Mhm.
use those resources and your personal circumstances you can apply.
Okay.
So it's not that easy. You have to contact some competent immigration lawyers. They do assist you. It's not the lawyer fills up the application form and prepares affidavits on your behalf. When you advise them, they will advise you saying that what sort of documents, evidence you need, what sort of affidavits you require, what sort of police reports and what sort of evaluations, what sort of physical damage or injury reports or mental injury reports or so many factors. The lawyers will advise the clients and they have to prepare the package and file it with the government because initially once you file there's a long way now and the immigration will do a credible fear interview. Once you pass that, you will get your work authorization and you will get your green card in the future. If the officer is not satisfied, they will deny your application and put you in a removal to the immigration. And you're in a deportation proceedings, removal proceedings. But you still have some, under the principles of natural justice or under the due process of law or even procedural due process, you have a right to have an attorney and prove yourself. You're before the judge.
Honestly, what are some of the major risks or disadvantages the applicants should be aware of?
Well, don't make any frivolous applications. That's the first thing. A lot of times you see people, oh, this guy is doing filling a form, that guy is doing filling up forms, and don't do those things. And if you have really a genuine case, make an application and don't try to fabricate things and don't make a false application, frivolous applications. Once they deny, you will be put on removal and deportation. You will not be allowed to make any other applications like change of status application. If your deportation, if your asylum is denied, even if you go and marry or change in circumstances, that becomes a difficult case to prove yourself because they see that you're not a bona fide guy, because your credibility is lost. That's the word used in the legislation, credibility of witness. That means you're not credible. That means your story is not credible. So they don't believe you. Immigration judge will not believe you. Immigration department will not believe you. So that is a disadvantage if the application is denied. Second thing, they will deport you and you will not be entitled to come back to US and you cannot even get an H1, F1 or any other category. That is the biggest disadvantage if it is denied. The advantage is, of course, as I said, you can bring your wife and children.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So need to be credibility is very important. So how long does the asylum process usually take, and what is life like during that waiting period?
Well, once you file an asylum application, after 180 days, you can apply for a work authorization, which you don't need to pay any fees for work authorization. Every 1 or 2 years, it gets renewed. And so until your asylum application gets approved or denied. So that is a benefit you have. You can start a business, work for anybody. You can buy a house, you can buy a business. You can do anything, but you might not have a right to travel overseas. And two, they will report your home country. And three, if you get in trouble with law, that will be again adverse on your application, on asylum application. Don't get involved in any moral turpitude offenses, stuff like that. As I said, you can file within 1 year. And if under the extraordinary circumstances, if you're not filed within 1 year, you can show to the government why there was a delay. You could ask for a continuation of delay with the government. They could even allow by showing extraordinary circumstances.
Okay.
And these days, a lot of people are doing frivolous applications. Don't do frivolous applications if that gets denied. If nowadays with present administration, if they see any iota of doubt, they can arrest. And our firm is also getting a lot of calls. Those who have filed an asylum application, those who are on F1 or those who are on H1B, they're getting detained. Our firm is getting a lot of calls. So be careful of that. Don't make frivolous applications. Don't do it after 2 years, 3 years, because you can't maintain your student status or you're not able to maintain your H1B because you're on a 60-day grace period, things like that. These are red herrings. So don't don't try to cut the corners and file it. And timelines are very important within 1 year.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned that when somebody seeks an asylum, they cannot travel outside of US, and in that case, and you also mentioned that the home country will be notified. So when the home country is notified, is there any possibility that the home country denies it?
Well, the thing is, you could have a problem at the port of entry back in your country because you mentioned to the American government that you have some fear of your own country, either with the government or with some social group. Then, if you go in India also or in your home country, they might stop you and say, hey, because the American government reports to your home country. And, there is a possibility that when you're coming back also, you might not be able to come back because of your credibility. You told that to the US government that there's a credibility of fear. And now when you have a fear, then how come you're going and coming back? So that means your application is not bona fide. So when your application is not bona fide, you're not coming with clean hands. That means it goes as against you. So it's a risky thing. So don't travel. Sometimes when you travel without taking permission, that amounts to abandonment of application. You can never come back. So no other countries also will entertain you.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So if the asylum case is approved, can the person go back to their old job or continue on the H1B status?
No, once your asylum gets approved, the other cases, other non-immigrant visas will not be there because asylum is a permanent residency intent. You have an intent to live permanently. H1B is non-immigrant. It's a dual intent, whether you want to stay or you want to go, or even student status, you want to go, you want to stay. It's a dual intent. Asylum application is only one intent, to live as an immigrant permanently. So it contradicts your intention.
Right. Makes sense. So, and if the case is denied, what are the legal options for the candidate? Can they stay in the US or must they leave immediately?
Well, the law says they'll give you a reasonable time to leave. But if you don't leave, they will send you to the immigration judge. The immigration judge has a right and power to deport you or remove you from the country. And if you can establish your case with them, with the judge, they might even approve your asylum. Change in circumstances. Sometimes you get married, you have American children, your well engaged in the American society. You have started a business, a lot of employees are working for you. You're doing a lot of contribution to the country. Change in circumstances, you can make some applications and get the reversal of the immigration government's order, and you can also get asylum application approved. And if that is not approved, you can still go until the Board of Immigration Appeal or even federal court. There's so many legal remedies available until the Supreme Court of America appeals.
So you mentioned that it will be the intent is more for a permanent resident once the asylum is granted. So how long does this path take towards green card or citizenship?
Asylum applications are taking very, very long now. It could even take 10, 15 years also now. And but present administration said they're appointing more officers. They want it to be adjudicated as early as possible. The present administration has allocated billions of dollars to appoint immigration judges, so things might expedite now. And as on today, from last 10, 15 years, they're taking 15 years also.
Okay. So what are some of the common mistakes or misconceptions that you see among the visa holders considering asylum?
Well, filling up the application form, you have to put a chronology, attach all the documents, whether it is a bona fide. Don't make frivolous application just to buy time in this country. Or you just don't want to go to school, or you don't want to work for the H-1B employer, or the H-1B employer gave a 60-day notice. Don't apply in those circumstances. And make an application if it is bona fide. Don't make a frivolous application. That's the only thing we can tell.
Okay, so that is your suggestion to all the F1s and H1s who consider the asylum. And unfortunately, we are short of time, Dr. Kaveti. So I think we got a very good amount of information from you. And thank you so much for all the insights based on your expertise. We will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.